Right, let's take you back to our top story then, where the controversial e-tolling system has finally been scrapped. For more reaction on this, we are joined by Saftu's General Secretary, Zwelinzima Vavi. Dr. Vavi, good to have you. Thank you very much for coming on. A costly decision, maybe even a complicated decision, the Premier says. How complicated was it? And we know how costly it is. I think so far we've paid 20 billion rands just servicing the interest costs of the initial 45 billion rand debt.
A costly mistake, a political blunder by the government who, typical of a government that doesn't have ideas about what it means to be a developmental state, goes somewhere in Europe, in the so-called first world, and bring back into our country a totally ill-conceived idea that you can unilaterally impose countries in the middle of a very, very small geographically province, but highly biggest in terms of the population size. Massive traffic jams between Pretoria and Johannesburg and almost every other part of the Gauteng. And they just imposed this thing. And now they have to, walk away with massive X on their face. This is a victory for the labor movement led by COSATU, then a united COSATU under the leadership of the proletariat. This is the victory of a cooperation between the united labor movement and the civil society, and special salutations to the role that OTA played. Yeah. In particular, giving a legal cover to the motorists following our joint calls on all Gauteng motorists not to pay for these e-tolls, and it failed. It was not ever meant to succeed. The rate of compliance was way below what government needed to repay the 45 billion rands it needed and to pay for these things. A total failure. And let's just go back to the basic point we want to emphasize. South Africa, Gauteng, doesn't need sophisticated guardrails or e-tolls. The South Africa, which is facing a massive underdevelopment challenges, in particular in the former Bantustan areas, in the rural areas, in the townships where black residents or citizens are residing, require a total different approach of development. What we need is the housing brigade to build houses for the millions of our people who still don't have houses now. It is estimated that 15% of South Africa's households or citizens are still needing houses. We have a 15% backlog. What the country needs is a youth brigade to ensure that the bridges are built all over the Republic, and to ensure that the infrastructure that is so desperately needed in the rural areas such as the former Ciskei, Transkei, Bophuthatswana are built so that kids stop diving into water every time they go.
So let me just come in there, because then we were told, as you know, since 2013, debating this particular issue, that tolling is a way of being able to pay for that road infrastructure. Is tolling the only way we can be able to pay for public road infrastructure?
No, we are paying already. The leg through the tax. We pay VAT at 15%. We are paying personal taxes. We're paying company taxes. We're paying a lot of taxes. And why can't those be adequate enough? And why do we need extra money? And we're paying toll gates left, right, and center. They continuously increasing. They are beginning to be unaffordable themselves. Many working class communities, when they go home tonight, will be avoiding to go through the N3, because the N3 now, only the big trucks and the upper middle class can afford to drive there. Our people must find dirty roads, dangerous roads, in order to reach their destination in KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and everywhere else. That's the problem. Secondly, government keep on saying that it doesn't have money. We have been pointing out time in and out for the past donkey years that government doesn't have the money because of its own policy choices. We have said that inaction of government to stop illicit cash outflows that cost this economy between 300 and 400 billion rands. If we were to build capacity in the Reserve Bank and to net that money and to make it circulate inside the country, we will be able to pay for the best of infrastructure all over the Republic, not just in Gauteng. If government was to stop the looting of its own procurement budget, which its own officials estimate that between 35 to 40% of the procurement budget gets stolen by the clever people who are able to manipulate the system, that will give us about 250 billion rands. If government was to take steps to ensure that the sophisticated tax dodging schemes by big capital, it was going to be able to save at least, or to net at least 50 billion rands, according to the estimates of the tax commission commissioned by the government. And more importantly, if government was to introduce solidarity tax, a wealth tax, to the 1% of the population that owns 45% of the wealth, we would be able to pay for those infrastructure our people so desperately need to get our kids to go to school safely and to fix the rural roads and the infrastructure everywhere else, to build laboratories, to build libraries in our schools.
So let's talk about the ripple effects then of this particular decision. The SACP saying, well, this is a primary example of workers being the primary motive forces of the revolution. But one of the casualties would be the workers themselves, because there were workers that were hired certainly to run this e-tolling scheme that I don't know whether they will still keep their jobs. What will they do? How will they be sustained?
Our demand will be that those workers be integrated into the rest of the other toll gates that are all over the country as we speak. It was not many of them. The last time we checked, it was about 170 of those workers employed by the Gauteng e-toll system in particular. SANRALs must in-source those workers, and no single worker must lose the job as a result of the stupid decision of the state. And workers have done absolutely nothing wrong. They responded to an employment opportunity. They mustn't be punished now that the government have made a U-turn on this matter.
Dr. Vavi, appreciate your time. Let's leave it there. Thank you very much for coming on. General Secretary of Saftu, that is Zwelinzima Vavi. Let's take a break. We'll continue with what's making news in a moment.